Hey guys, Manal here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make the best cinnamon rolls ever. So let's start off with the dough, beginning with the dry ingredients. You're going to need 3 cups of flour. Here I'm using all-purpose flour, but if you have bread flour on hand, you can go ahead and use that. And then I added 3/4 teaspoon of salt and gave it a good whisk to combine. Now moving over to our wet ingredients, you're going to need 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. I melt mine over a stove. You can microwave it if you want, and then set it aside so that it can cool down. You do not want to use hot butter in this recipe. It will kill your yeast. You're also going to need 1 egg plus 1 egg yolk at room temperature. How I bring it to room temperature is by placing it in some warm water. And now in my stand mixer bowl, I am pouring in 3/4 cup of warm milk. Here I'm using 2%. If you have whole milk, go ahead and use that. I also like to place a candy thermometer to check the temperature of the milk and make sure it's not under 105 degrees Fahrenheit and not over 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Anything under or over will also kill your yeast. Next, I'm going to add a teaspoon of sugar, which is going to help the yeast activate a little bit faster. Give it a quick stir to combine, and then you want to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of quick rise yeast. If you have the packaged version of this, you can go ahead and use that as well. And then give it a good stir and set it aside for about 10 minutes until it starts to froth at the top. Now we can add the rest of the ingredients, which included 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of melted butter, and 1 egg plus 1 egg yolk. I did go ahead and add another egg yolk before putting it in the mixer. I just forgot to record it. But make sure you add that second egg yolk. Now I've popped my wet ingredients into the stand mixer using the paddle attachment, and I'm giving it all a really good mix. And now into the bowl, we're going to add the flour and salt mixture that we had combined earlier. If you are doing this by hand, you just want to put the spoon of flour in increments into your wet ingredient bowl, and then create the same shaggy dough texture, and then you just flop it onto your countertop and start kneading it. Instead of me kneading it on a countertop, I am just using the dough hook attachment on my mixer to knead this for 8 minutes. You'll know your dough is ready when it's sticky but springs back to the touch. Now you want to transfer that dough ball into a well-oiled bowl. Cover it with a plastic wrap or a wet cloth and put it in a warm, dark spot. I like to pop it in the microwave without turning it on. And now we let it rise until it doubles in size. This could take an hour to an hour and a half. And now let's get started on the filling. You're gonna need 1 cup of brown sugar. I always like to go in with a spatula and kind of like break it apart. It's just super therapeutic for me. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add 2.5 tablespoons of cinnamon powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 3/4 cup of butter, which is about 75 grams of butter. Soft room temperature butter, guys. That is super important when you're whipping up the filling. Now I'm just going to pop this into the stand mixer using the paddle attachment. This is going to make it nice, airy, and fluffy. And the really good thing about this consistency is that the sugar won't seep out from the bottom of the cinnamon rolls when you're baking it. It'll actually hold in place. And I learned this amazing trick from the Purple Cupcake on Instagram and YouTube. She's awesome. Check her out. We are now moving on to the icing glaze. This is my favorite part. You're going to need 1 cup of unsalted butter, 3 cups of powdered confectioner's sugar, and 1 brick of cream cheese, which is about 250 grams. You're also going to need 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of whole milk, 2% works fine, heavy cream works fine, and 1 teaspoon of lemon juice. Now in the stand mixer with the paddle attachment, I'm going to throw in my cream cheese and my butter and give it a really good whip. Now we're going to start adding in the 3 cups of sugar, but we're going to do it by putting in 1 tablespoon at a time. Once it gets to this thick, creamy consistency, we can add in the rest of the ingredients for that punch. This already tastes really good, by the way. So you can add in your whole milk, your lemon juice, and your vanilla extract. And again, give it a really good whip. And here's our dough doubled in size in all its glory. I am going to push the gas out. Oh my god, I love that part. And now we're going to flour our surface. I do have this amazing pastry mat that I got from Amazon, and I will link all of my baking essentials below so that you guys can look into it if you want. But I also got this really cool rolling pin that allows you to adjust the thickness of whatever you're rolling out. So in this case, for the cinnamon rolls, I wanted 1/8 of an inch of thickness, which is about 3 millimeters. And you can switch out the rings to adjust the size of the thickness. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead with the blue ring and just screw it onto the side and get started. And now we're going to take out the dough and place it on a well-floured surface. And I kind of create a rectangle shape before I start using the rolling pin, just so that it's easier to maintain that shape throughout the process. So I rolled out my dough to be 12 by 18 inches. You could get more or less depending on the thickness of your dough. And now we can proceed with the filling. We're just going to spread this all over the dough. Once that's done, I'm going to do a nice and tight roll, starting from the 12-inch side. And now it should look like a nice big burrito. So before I begin cutting the rolls, I am going to grease my 12 by 9-inch pan. I do have parchment paper lined at the bottom. So now to cut the rolls, I am going to use floss. How I like to do this is that I like to slide a long piece of floss under the dough, and I like to wrap it around the top, pull tightly in opposite directions to pull the floss through the roll, and that's it. You keep repeating this. So my rolls are about an inch and a half, and as I am cutting them, I'm just placing them right into the pan. See how they're the perfect spirals? They didn't get squished down. You can use a serrated knife for this as well, but if you have floss at hand, it is definitely the best option. So when placing them in the pan, make sure that you are spacing them out as much as possible. And now we're going to let this dough rise again for about 30 to 45 minutes before we bake them. You can use a plastic wrap to cover this or a towel, whatever floats your boat. Okay, so once the 45 minutes are up, they're going to look nice and fluffy like this. You're going to notice that the rolls are a lot closer to each other. We're still not ready to bake these yet because we have one more step. We're going to take melted butter and just lightly brush the top. This is going to allow the cinnamon rolls to brown at the top and have this nice glaze. Preheat your oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We are almost ready to pop these babies in. A total baking time for the cinnamon rolls is 20 to 25 minutes. We are going to pull them out of the oven at 10 minutes, and here's why. The secret trick that I learned is actually pouring heavy cream over each roll. I poured about 1 tablespoon over each roll. This gives the roll so much more moisture and just makes it so much more juicier. And so once that's done, we're going to pop it back in the oven for another 10 to 15 minutes until it turns nice and golden at the top. So there's always this one spiral that sticks up. I just push it down with a knife just to make it perfect and aligned to the rest of the rolls. And that's it. Now we're on to the glazing, the icing, the frosting, whatever you want to call it. So I like to use the offset spatula for this and just generously spread it all over. You want to do this within the first 10 minutes of it coming out of the oven so that the frosting can still seep into the crevices of the rolls while the rolls are still warm. Then you can go in the second time if you want later on and you prefer more icing on top, but you definitely want to do this first slather right within the 10 minutes of it coming out of the oven. I love topping my rolls with pecans. If you have walnuts, you can add that too. And just another idea, you can actually glaze all of your rolls with Nutella if that's what you like. And that is it for this recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Please give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know down in the comments below what you would like to see next. And I promise you guys, these will be the best cinnamon rolls you've ever had.